Hey guys, it's Brandon Maynard of the Whitetails of New York. Today I want to talk about summer food plots with you guys and help you come up with an idea if it's the right management practice for you, if it's worth your time, worth your money. There is a lot of properties where it is worth it, and then others to where you might be wasting your time. So first of all, why even consider planting summer food sources? What can it do to your deer herd to improve it? And why would I go ahead and waste a lot of money in a time where I'm actually not going to be sitting over top of that food source and hunting over top of it? Well, the first thing I like to look at is let's look at a stressful time period for your deer herd. A lot of people are going to consider wintertime being the most stressful time of year for all of the deer in your deer herd. That might be the case for a lot of the bucks, especially the mature ones that have been chasing deer or chasing the doe all throughout the rut. They're definitely run down. They've lost a lot of body weight, and they've got to have something that's going to replenish all this and help them gain this body weight back, and help them get back to a healthy state. That's why the fall and winter food plots that we plant, the cool season food plots, are extremely important, and why we recommend that on most every single client property I go to. However, when we look at a doe and their stressful time, it's going to be during the summer months. The reasoning for this is because obviously they just gave birth to their fawn, and now they have to go through a lactation period where they're feeding that fawn through their milk, and it takes a lot of high quality forage, a lot of protein to give that fawn the nutrients that it needs. And obviously, all those nutrients are coming through the mother. The mother's getting all those nutrients through the forage that she is selecting to eat. So a doe's stressful time is throughout the summer months. Why do we care about the doe? Well, obviously, the doe are giving birth to the next generation. If she's not giving high quality nutrients to that new generation, it will impact the herd and the overall health of the herd and the quality of it. You will see impacts on antler size, body sizes, and survival rates. So providing a high quality forage for that doe during the lactation period is very important. Not only that, let's look at what the majority of us care about, and that is antler size. A lot of us are going out there trying to manage our properties to increase the overall age structure on our property, which ultimately is going to lead to bigger antlers. Now, if you look at a study from Mississippi State University, they did a study on protein levels and how that affects antler size. And a lot of people don't realize how instantaneous the results can be from providing a deer high quality, high protein forage compared to one that's getting less protein and less quality forage. So what they did is they took two groups of deer. They fed a group 8% crude protein, and they fed another group of deer 16% crude protein. What they saw just in that initial first year, when that deer was about a year and a half old, they saw a 10-inch difference on the Boone and Crockett scale. That is a tremendous result over just 1 year. That's pretty remarkable. What the difference is between those two deer herds and their forage qualities they were receiving. Now we look at this same study over the course of 4 years, and you're almost seeing a 20-inch difference on the Boone and Crockett scale, as far as antler size goes. Just in 4 years. That's an incredible statistic and number to look at. That's the difference between having your 4.5, 5.5-year-old buck topping out at 125, 130, and then actually reaching that 150 inch mark. It can really benefit your deer herd a lot. So, what is an instance where I would not recommend planting a summer forage? We just went through all these benefits of what it can do to your property and how it can help out your deer herd, but there are some properties where I don't recommend it. And some of these properties, the majority of these properties are going to be found in agricultural regions, where there is a lot of agricultural practices taking place throughout the neighborhood. Ag is, I go back and forth on this. Ag is good for some things, and then obviously ag can be not so great for others. And what do I mean by this? Ag is not dependable. It's not something I'm going to depend on for a high quality forage throughout the fall and winter months. Obviously, because the farmers out there are going to harvest that crop usually in the late summer and into the fall, and that leaves your deer herd with no quality forage going into some stressful time period. So ag, when can you depend on it? It's going to be during the summer months. If you have a lot of farmers around you that are practicing in soybean and crop rotations, soybean and corn rotations, excuse me, that is going to be something that you are going to see some higher quality deer in that area if that's consistently taking place year after year. In a high ag region where the majority of the land around you is taking place in these agricultural practices, it's going to be somewhere where I probably would not recommend my client to plant a summer forage. The reasoning for this is because a lot of these agricultural farms, they're putting in a lot of inputs, they're putting in a lot of time and effort and money into the quality of forage that they're growing. Obviously, they need to increase their yield amount in the quality of that plant that they're growing to increase their overall profit. So they're putting a lot of inputs into these plants. They are growing for that high yield, high quality, and you're not going to be able to compete with that. I say that, if you put a lot of time into it and you've been doing it for a while, you could probably, somewhat compete. But they've got a lot of equipment, a lot of resources that we as food plotters don't have. So if you're in a high ag region, leave the summer forage to the farmers. Let those farmers plant their soybeans. Let your deer travel off of your property during the summer months. Go get that high quality forage, and then you need to focus on holding them and bringing them back to your property during the fall months. That's why you're going to just plant the fall blend. I think it's winter hardy and is going to last throughout the entire winter. So unless you are, and now, so that property, for instance, something in a big ag region, and you have enough land to where you can plant food plots. The only time I'm going to plant a summer forage is if I'm doing a no-till system, to where I want a crop on the ground all season long. That is something we are going to change on our farm, and we are going to start to develop into a no-till system, intelligent till system. We are going to work that in. So we're going to try to have a crop on our property throughout the entire year. It's obviously going to increase our soil health, and that can provide a tremendous amount of benefits on your property. That the list goes on and on. It's amazing what soil can do to your deer herd, to the plants that you're growing, and ultimately the quality of bucks that you're seeing on your property. Another great study to look at, also out of the MSU Deer Lab, they've come up with a lot of good studies that really show the average hunter and the average landowner the amount of impact you can have on your deer herd. So let's look at the one study that they did. In Mississippi, they have a lot of variation in soil quality throughout the state. They have different regions with different quality soils. Because of this, over the years, they have seen an ongoing trend where places in the higher quality soils, they are seeing bucks with larger antlers, and compared to places with the lower quality soils. We're not talking, 2 or 3 inches on that Boone and Crockett scale. We're talking upwards of 30 inches on that Boone and Crockett scale. So it's a tremendous result and impact soil quality has on antler growth. So what they did, because the mass majority, or a lot of hunters in Mississippi wanted to see, was it related to genetics in these locations, or was it nutrition that these deer were receiving from the plants that they were eating on the higher quality soil? So what they did was they took groups of deer from each quality soil. So in the Delta regions, that's their highest quality soil. They took a group from there. They took a group from medium quality soils, and then another from the lower coastal plains, which is sandy, extremely sandy soils that aren't capable of holding nutrients compared to clay soils like they find in the Delta. So what they found is they brought these groups of deer to a controlled facility. They fed them each the same high quality nutrients for a number of years, and they obviously tested the results. They kept each group in their own confined areas so that they knew there wasn't any interbreeding going on, so they knew genetics had no factor whatsoever in this study. What they found was, after just one generation, the animals, the bucks in the lower coastal plains, so the low quality soils, closed the gap a little bit and compared to antler size of the Delta region. Now, after just the second generation, just after 2 generations, they found that the bucks were on an even scale, and they were growing the same quality antlers. In the ones from the lower coastal plains, the poor soils, were now equivalent in antler size compared to that of the Delta, just in 2 generations. That is a crazy statistic to look at, and shows you how important it is that the deer are getting the highest quality nutrition that you could possibly give them on your property all year round. So obviously, soil health is extremely important. The higher quality your soils are, the more minerals, the more nutrients your deer herd is going to be receiving, which is then going to translate into higher quality antlers and body sizes. Also in that study, they found that it took the body a little bit longer to adjust to these higher quality nutrients. It took longer to notice a big difference in that body change, for good reason. If you look at a lot of the research is, and it makes sense when you think about it logically. Let's say that you feed this deer high quality forage for just 1 year. If they were genetically able to grow that quickly, change their body form that quickly into a bigger, larger body, and now let's say you take that nutrients away from them the following year, now they're not going to have enough nutrients to take care of that larger body. You see this, you go up and look at deer in the northern areas in Canada compared to deer all the way down in Mississippi, you're going to see a huge difference in body sizes. That all has to do relative to temperatures and the way that they hold their energy and the way that they survive in their environment. So you're going to see body sizes take a little bit longer to change. Just it's kind of a survival tactic when you think about it in that sense. They're not going to go ahead and change their body significantly right out of the gate, because then what if that forage changes just the following year after just being presented to them? They're going to struggle to survive at that point. And no, I'm saying this like the deer have control of that. No, they do not have control of that. It's just genetically how they're built. It's how nature works. They're not going to have this huge increase in body size if it's going to affect them negatively the next year. So they're going to put a lot of that growth towards their antlers that first year, because antler size really does not affect the way that they live and the way that they survive. Yes, it's a good indicator of the health of the herd, but it's not something that is going to impact them negatively if they have a huge rack the first year, or that first initial year after being fed that high quality forage, and then they lose those antlers, and then the next year they aren't fed that high quality forage. It's not going to affect them negatively whatsoever. Body size would. So that's why that takes a little bit longer to work into their system. So should you plant summer forage? Again, it all depends on your surrounding habitat. First of all, how much land do you have? It's going to take a lot of land to plant something like soybeans, for instance. Everybody has a huge craze about soybeans. There's been a lot of people out there that have smartened up and to realize how much property, how much land it takes to plant soybeans and have it last the entire season. That is why on our own farm, you can see behind me here, we planted soybeans this year. We planted about 3.5 acres to 4 acres, somewhere in there. And they were wiped out. Yes, they did last us up until middle of December. They did not last the deer throughout the entire winter months, which was really our end goal. They lasted the majority of the season, which was nice. But we're going to plant a summer forage in here that is a little bit more browse tolerant, and also has more diversity in it. The more you research soil health and the way that the plant affects the soil that it's growing on, you will realize high diversity, something that's diversified, stands a much better chance against diseases. It has much more tolerance. It's going to build the overall health of that soil a lot quicker than something like a monoculture of soybeans, and let's say a soybean corn rotation that's been shown over the years. Yes, farmers do that for reasons, but they still have to have a lot of inputs into their property because it's just not enough diversity. So we're going to come in here and we're going to actually go with Dr. Grant Wood's blend. He partnered up with a seed company called Green Cover, a great company. If you haven't checked them out, I strongly recommend you check them out on YouTube. Keith Burns, one of the founders of Green Cover, he's really, really intelligent, obviously, and he has a ton of knowledge about soil health and about how important that is, not only for wildlife, but even for humans. It's really interesting, the stuff that he'll tell you in the videos he has, showing how you can improve soil, how his products will improve the soil, and overall how that can affect the animal that's consuming that forage. Another one, Dr. Grant Woods, he came up with this blend with Keith Burns. And Dr. Grant Woods, if you haven't checked him out, Growing Deer TV on YouTube, the guy's an absolute genius. He knows a lot about wildlife, a lot about the importance of soil health, and he has an awesome system on how he goes about planting his food plots. This is something we're going to start implementing on our property. We're going to go ahead and plant Green Cover's Summer Release blend, which is, again, made up with Dr. Grant Woods and Green Cover with Keith Burns. So they came up with this blend. It's highly diversified, which is going to help out that soil, and it's also going to give the deer a lot of protein and other nutrients. I'm not going to lie, the first time I looked at this blend, I kind of chuckled to myself because it doesn't look like a food plot. It honestly looks like a field of garbage. But if you look at what the plants are that they chose for this blend, They're extremely high quality in protein and other nutrients for your deer herd, and they're also going to help out the soil. So it works hand in hand. It's a great blend. Something we're going to try out on our farm. We're going to see the impact of that. Um, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm really excited to start transitioning our methods into more of a regenerative agriculture standpoint for planting our food sources. I think it's going to impact not only our soils, but the quality of deer that we're seeing on our property. So I'm very excited to start that coming up this year, and we'll keep you guys posted on that process. So going back to whether you should plant summer food sources or not. In a case where you're in a high quality agricultural region, maybe you don't own a lot of land, I'm not necessarily going to invest in that unless I'm doing this no-till method. That's something where I would have a standing crop on my field as long as I can throughout the season. So I would do that spring, early summer planting, and then I would plant my fall crop right directly into that standing cover, which we'll go over in future videos and how we're going to go about that on our farm. In places where there's not much ag around, it's going to take quite a bit of high quality forage at that point to see tremendous results on your property, but it's worth doing. Not only with habitat improvements as far as TSI and other habitat improvements to increase the overall biomass and forages and woody browse and herbaceous growth on your property that's going to impact your deer herd, but also adding in this summer forage. It's going to take a lot of land to grow something that is going to be able to keep up with that browse pressure and that deer pressure in a non-agricultural area. Just because that high quality forage is not found very much in the neighborhood. So they're really going to be pressuring your property. They're going to be focusing on your property hard. But it's something still, if you have enough property, I'm saying, 100 plus acres in a big wood setting, that's something where I would attempt this. But you definitely need to realize that the deer are going to be hitting it hard, and the browse pressure might be to the point where, they might eat it down to the ground before it has a chance to establish. Green cover has a couple more blends that are browse tolerant. I would look into those as well, if that's something that you're interested in. So what are the negatives of planting a summer food source? Because there definitely is some. What you need to realize is that the higher quality habitat that you have on your property means the more does and fawns that you're going to have on your property. It's the first indicator that you will see on your property is if you have high quality forage, there will be a lot of does, there will be a lot of fawns. So at this point, if you've not been managing your doe herd in the past with harvest, this is something you're going to have to start doing. You have high quality forage, you're going to have a lot of does. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. On our property, we're not in a high agricultural area. We have a lot of hay fields around. We have a lot of pastured land for grazing and for cutting off hay, but there's not a lot of soybean, corn rotations around. There's not a lot of crop growing around us in our immediate neighborhood. The nearest soybean farm might be, I'm going to guess, about 20 miles away. So it's not in our immediate area where it's going to affect our deer herd. So that's something that we are going to obviously implement on our property, is that summer forage, to increase the overall nutritional value of the forage that our deer are receiving. So like I said, you're going to have to start managing your doe herd. You're going to have to start taking doe annually. You will see them replenish, but it's very important to manage them and to keep an eye on your ratios on your property. Like I said, it's just, you're going to have a lot of doe. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's something, though, that I'm not willing to give up. I'm willing to have a few more doe on my property and have to manage that doe herd to benefit the overall nutrition of the deer and the value of the forage that they're receiving. I'm willing to sacrifice that and allow more doe to come in on my property and then have to manage them rather than diminishing all of this nutrition that these bucks are going to be receiving and ultimately seeing less quality bucks in the future. So we are really pushing this year to come in here and plant a high quality summer forage to increase the protein that our deer are receiving, especially our bucks. And just in that first year, as MSU Deer Lab showed, you can see tremendous results in those antler sizes. You can see up to 10 inches on the Boone and Crockett scale. You now do this over a course of 4 years, you can change the quality of bucks you're seeing by about 20 inches on the Boone and Crockett scale. That is an incredible change and an impact you can have on your deer herd by just providing a high quality summer forage. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Whitetails of New York. Please tune in every week for more tips and tactics. If you guys have not checked us out, please feel free to go ahead and check out our website, see what we're all about, see how we can help you on your property. We don't just do on-site consultations and help out landowners just in New York. We help out people all throughout the Northeast. So feel free to reach out, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and I will put a link down in the description below to our website, and you can see what the services are that we offer, and see how we can help you on your property. Because at the end of the day, you need to start with a plan, and it can seem overwhelming at times, but it's not. We lay it out for you step by step. What's the most important thing to get done first? How you're going to be able to see the biggest improvements initially, and the little things you can add on after that to improve your habitat and overall your hunting experience and the quality of deer that you're seeing on your property. So feel free to reach out anytime. Again, thank you for tuning in, and always remember, your success is our success.